Good afternoon, everybody. Old Man Dan here. I'm going to make a video response about my video from yesterday and some of the reactions it already received. Not many, but one or two reactions. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the game. I'm going to talk about Kansas City Fellowship a little bit more, about the prophecy that I talked about yesterday about how Kansas City was going to win the Super Bowl and that was going to bring about a revival. It's taken me a little bit longer to get to this movie today because my puppies have all been rambunctious, but now they're finally settled down and I can actually start filming. So, the first puppy laying on the floor, dead to the world, was Ann Bonnie. She's a wrecking ball. You'll get to know her more as I make more videos. This handsome fella chewing on a teddy bear while he sleeps is Captain Morgan. He's had this habit of having to have a teddy bear when he sleeps ever since he was a little puppy. And he's almost 7 years old now and he's never grown out of it. And this beautiful creator right here in the sun is Panela. She's my wife's Frenchie. She spends more time with me because I'm retired and I don't work. And she's also pretty ferocious. She's not afraid of the bigger dogs. She'll fight with Ann Barney quite a bit. I don't know what it is about girl dogs, but they seem to get jealous of each other quite a bit. And they'll play well together for a while, but if one of them takes a toy away from the other, it'll be a battle royale. Anyway, it's not what I wanted to talk about today so much as what I want to talk about today is the movie I posted yesterday. And I actually have a list here of stuff I'm going to try to cover in this video. And while I'm making this video, I'm going to practice a third technique of video making that I learned from Flat Earthers. And that is the filming the screen technique. So first of all, let's zoom in here. Let's see if I can arrange this so that it's pretty steady. So this is the video I posted yesterday about my Super Bowl predictions. I didn't really make any Super Bowl predictions, I guess. What I talked about was a prophecy that I had heard when I was a lot younger and living in Kansas City. Back then I went to a church called Kansas City Fellowship. And they were a church that believed that they were going to bring back biblical prophecy, end-time prophecy, and they were going to create a great revival that was going to sweep across the United States and across the world, and that as a result of that great revival, Jesus would come back. One of the prophecies that they held on to back in the 80s was that the Chiefs were going to win the Super Bowl led by a quarterback, Todd Blackledge, like I told you yesterday. Well, let's just talk about some ways that prophecy has failed. Okay, number one, Todd Blackledge did play in the Kansas City Chiefs for quite a while. I don't remember how many years. But he left Kansas City and he went to play at the Steelers. And he didn't really have a stellar career. He wasn't a bad quarterback, but he was never a superstar. And when he left professional football after being at the Steelers, he went out and ended up now as a high school. He's ended up now as a high school coach. So, not that he's a bad guy, but his career wasn't anything like Kansas City Fellowship had prophesied with him leading Kansas City Chiefs to the Super Bowl. The other thing that I always found odd about this prophecy, because it's been stuck in my mind for all these years, is how these prophets, these quote-unquote men of God in Kansas City, had heard so much about where God was going to take the church and the United States and the world and this revival and everything. But God never told them that the Kansas City Royals were going to win not once, but twice in the time it took for Kansas City to finally win the Super Bowl. If you remember, Kansas City won both in 1985 and 2015. Now, that was always important to me because my daughter, the second of my kids, my oldest daughter, was actually born in Kansas City in 1985, the year the Royals won their first national pennant. Anyway, I always wondered why, if God wanted to use the Chiefs in the Super Bowl as a sign of his coming end times, why didn't God know about the Royals? Or is baseball an evil sport and God can't use baseball as a sign for his prophecies? I don't know. I just always found it kind of weird. Anyway, I don't really think that prophecy has much value for those reasons. But I also wonder, I'm not going to do much to find out, but I wonder how many people in Kansas City are still there from the old days, and how many of them remember those prophecies about Kansas City and Todd Blackledge winning the Super Bowl and the great revival that would happen afterwards. I wonder if they still talk about that. I wonder if they're going to now use that to claim way back when that they knew that God had revealed something to them. I'm going to probably check up on them a little bit to see if I can find out any more about that. But I'm not really hugely interested in it. It's just a matter of curiosity to me. Anyway, what I would like to talk a little bit about more is how now I can feel like a real YouTuber, because my video yesterday got a wonderful response from a guy who calls himself God Says, Depart from Me, I Never Knew You. And he tells me football demons play that in hell, use torture humans for sport, for that devil. People idol worship it. How do you think came up with sport? Lukewarm Christians, anything or person can be an idol, if put before God. Don't know God, no world, and man, hell is where you're going. Play with demons in hell with football crap. Anyway, I just thought that was a really well thought out response to my video, so I wanted to share with you guys. Okay. Anyway, it makes me feel good. My video got it. I have my first comment ever on a YouTube video, so I'm pretty proud of myself. Yeah. Anyway, I also got a response because I posted my video to Twitter so that hopefully I could get a few more people to see it. Now, I got a response from somebody named Lacey Henry yesterday. Let's see if we can get this. Okay. Lacey Henry says, Andy Reid, he's the coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, got his 222nd career win on February 2020. And she uses the numbers as you can see. And then she goes on to quote a Bible verse, Isaiah 2:2. Now it will come about that in the last days the mountain of the house of the Lord will be established as the chief of the mountains, and will be raised above the hills, and all the nations will stream to it. Well, I have no idea how all that fits together or what that even means. I had heard this verse many times back in the days when I went to church. And yeah, it does sound like some kind of end time prophecy verse. But I've heard all kinds of different things about the mountain of the house of the Lord. It could be that that's the mountain that the temple in Jerusalem was built on. It could be a temple in the New Jerusalem that's supposed to be brought to earth after the Messiah comes and restores Israel. It could be all kinds of stuff. Anyway, I asked her for some clarification, and so far nothing. But my question to her was, Lacey, what does that even mean? Are you quoting that verse as a Jew or as a Christian? A Jew would have one perspective on that verse, but I bet there are hundreds of conflicting Christian views on it. And then, because I'm all confused about the numbers, I asked her, are you sure there is a meaning in the number 2 being repeated so many times? If there is, what is that meaning? I think it just happens to be a beautiful coincidence. I bet if you tried, you could find other 2s to add to the list from tonight's game. For example, San Francisco scored 20 points on 2/20/2020 and lost the game. So, I'm sure that everybody has a different point of view about what number 2 means. I'm not sure that it has any meaning at all, because if you think about it, our calendar dates are artificial constructs. We numbered the years, we named the months, we divided the months into an arbitrary numbers of days. So, even though it's a really coincidental set of numbers, we got to remember that humans artificially created the dating system that we use now. So I have a hard time finding some kind of divine inspiration in those numbers, knowing that. Anyway, I looked up what 2 means in numerology, and I'm sure she's not a numerologist. I'm sure she's either a Messianic Jew, those people who believe they're Jewish but believes that Jesus is the Messiah, or something like that, or she's some kind of Christian. I'll never know if she doesn't answer. But anyway, for numerology, 2 is the vibration and energy of balance, peace, and diplomacy, sensitivity, intuition, and emotion. His sensitivity allows a person with a 2 vibration the inner strength to support their own goals and to bring harmony into their own lives and into the lives of those around them. Now, that's a numerology explanation for the number 2. And when you look at all that stuff about balance, peace, diplomacy, etc., it's really hard to picture that number 2 having anything to do with what most Christians prophesy or believe is the end of the world, with some crazy antichrist and some crazy demon beast and the number 666 and the whole world being at war and Armageddon and all those crazy apocalyptic destructive visions of the end times that people have. So anyway, for numerology, number 2 kind of goes against that lady's point. Okay, so then I looked up the meaning of 222, 222, because that seems to be a significant number to Lacey. Okay, so anyway, what is 222 spiritual meaning? And according to spiritualunite.com, the planet is the symbol of abundance and love. This planet, as in the earth, is the symbol of abundance and love. The number 222 is associated with hidden love and power. If you are hearing or seeing the number 222, it means that spirits are guiding you. They are telling you something important, and you need to pay attention to it. Okay, so Lacey thinks we should pay attention to the number 222. But notice that I was talking about the end times as Baptists and evangelicals talk about the end times. And here this number 222 is all about hidden love and power, or this planet, the earth, as a symbol of abundance and love. Well, doesn't that kind of go against the idea of the apocalypse too?